It didn't arrive as a realization. It came as a feeling that refused to form a sentence. At first, it was just small moments that didn't land the way they used to. We would sit together in the evenings, both of us tired, both of us quiet, and I would wait for something, a look, a comment, a shared thought that never came. Not because he was cold or distracted, he was still kind, still present, still there in all the visible ways, but something was missing from the space between us. I remember one night in particular. We were cooking dinner, standing side by side in the kitchen, moving around each other with the ease of people who had done this 100 times before. I reached for the salt, and so did he. Our hands brushed, briefly. He smiled and stepped back. It should have felt normal. Instead, it felt like the echo of something that used to live there. I told myself it was stress. Work had been heavy for both of us. Life had a way of dulling things, I knew that. Long relationships weren't always exciting. They settled. They softened. That's what I told myself. But the emptiness didn't feel soft. It felt hollow. He still asked how my day was. He still listened. But there was no curiosity in his questions anymore. No follow-up. No sense that my answers stayed with him after I spoke. I noticed it most in the pauses, the quiet moments where nothing happened and nothing seemed to want to. When something feels wrong but doesn't have a shape, you assume it's you. So I adjusted. I became lighter, easier. I stopped bringing up things that might weigh the room down. I laughed more quickly. I chose my words carefully, smoothing my edges before they ever reached him. If he seemed distant, I told myself I was asking for too much. If conversations ended early, I assumed I was boring. If he didn't reach for me at night, I blamed the timing, the day, the fatigue. I didn't question him. I questioned myself relentlessly. I tried to be more interesting. I suggested new routines, new places to eat, small changes that felt harmless. I told myself that relationships needed maintenance, that effort mattered. Sometimes he went along with it, sometimes he didn't. Either way, nothing changed. The hardest part wasn't the lack of affection, it was the lack of resistance. He didn't pull away sharply, he didn't argue, he didn't demand space. He simply accepted everything at a distance. I remember asking him one evening, casually, "Are you okay?" He looked up from his phone, surprised, like the question hadn't crossed his mind. "Yeah," he said. "Why?" "No reason," I replied, and I meant it. I had no reason I could explain without sounding dramatic, so I swallowed the feeling and kept going. That became my pattern. Notice, adjust, stay quiet. From the outside, nothing was wrong. We still shared a home, still talked about logistics, still moved through the days as a unit. Friends would ask how we were, and I would say good, because there was no obvious reason not to. But intimacy had thinned into something almost invisible. We stopped telling each other small things, the kind of details that don't matter, except that they do. A thought that passed through my mind during the day, something funny I noticed, a memory that surfaced for no reason. I realized one afternoon that I hadn't told him anything personal in days, not because he shut me down, but because the impulse no longer appeared. At night, we slept beside each other without touching, not dramatically, just parallel. Two bodies sharing space, not warmth. I would lie awake sometimes, listening to his breathing, wondering when the distance had become this quiet. There were moments when I almost spoke, when the words hovered close enough to taste. Do you still feel this? Are we okay? Did I miss something? But every time the moment passed, he seemed content, calm, undisturbed, and I didn't want to be the one to introduce unrest without proof. So we continued. We were still together in every way that could be seen, but something essential had already left. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a discovery. It was an afternoon like any other. He came home earlier than usual, dropped his keys on the table, and sat down without saying much. I was reading on the couch. We exchanged a few words about dinner, nothing unusual. Then he said, almost absent-mindedly, "I talked to someone today." I looked up. About what? He shrugged. About life, about where things are going. The way he said it, vague, detached, stopped me, not because of jealousy, because of recognition. I realized in that moment that he had already been having these conversations, just not with me. It wasn't that he was hiding something. It was that I was no longer the place he went to sort himself out. And suddenly, everything aligned. The quiet, the absence, the way love hadn't ended, it had simply stopped arriving. He wasn't choosing to leave me now. He had already left emotionally long ago, and I had been living beside the outline he left behind. I didn't say anything then. I just nodded and went back to my book, though I wasn't reading anymore. Inside, something settled. Not pain, understanding. When it ended, it did so without a scene. There was no dramatic conversation, no list of grievances laid out on the table. Just a mutual recognition that continuing would require pretending, and neither of us had the energy for that anymore. We spoke calmly, carefully, like people handling something fragile that had already cracked. "I don't think we're the same anymore," he said. I nodded. "I know." That was it. No accusations, no blame, no attempt to rewrite history. After he left, the apartment felt quieter but not emptier. The silence was different now. Honest. I realized then that I had been grieving long before the ending, that I had already let go in small, unnoticed ways, the way you stop reaching for something that never arrives. Love didn't break between us. It faded, slowly, politely, without asking permission. And by the time it ended, I wasn't losing him. I was simply catching up to where he had been all along.